The rain had been falling since dusk, a thin, needling drizzle that soaked the streets without ever announcing itself as a storm. By the time the clock over the butcher's shop struck 10, the city felt emptied of sound, as if someone had turned the volume knob down on life itself. Windows glowed faintly behind curtains, doors were locked, and somewhere between the river and the old railway yard, a man vanished. His name was Adil Khan, and until that night, he had been the kind of man people trusted without thinking about it. 38 years old, married, one daughter, 6, a mid-level accounts manager at a shipping firm that moved cargo in and out of Karachi's port. He wore pressed shirts, paid his bills on time, and never missed Sunday dinner at his mother's apartment. The sort of man whose disappearance felt wrong in a way that was hard to articulate, like finding a clean page torn out of a book. When Adil didn't come home, his wife Samina told herself not to panic. He had called earlier, his voice tight with work stress, saying he might be late. That wasn't unusual. Ships didn't care about office hours, and neither did customs paperwork or port officials who expected favors for signatures. Samina reheated the lentils, put their daughter Hira to bed, and folded laundry while the rain ticked against the windows. At 11, she checked her phone. No messages. At midnight, she called him. It rang until it didn't. By 1 in the morning, panic had grown teeth. The police station smelled of damp paper and overbrewed tea. The ceiling fan clicked as it turned, pushing hot air in slow, tired circles. The duty officer listened with half an ear as Samina spoke, her words tumbling over each other. Missing person, husband, never late like this. Phone off. He wrote Adil's name down without looking up. Come back in 48 hours, he said. Men disappear all the time, probably staying with friends. Samina stood there, rainwater dripping from the hem of her shawl, and felt something cold settle in her chest. He would call, she said. He always calls. The officer shrugged. 48 hours. She left with a carbon copy form and the sense that the city had quietly closed ranks against her. Inspector Farooq Malik heard about Adil Khan 2 days later, when the file landed on his desk with a soft, unimpressive thud. Malik had been with the Criminal Investigation Department for 17 years, long enough to recognize which cases would be solved quickly and which would rot in cabinets until the paper yellowed. This one interested him for one simple reason. Men like Adil didn't just disappear. Malik read the file carefully. Last seen leaving his office at 8:40 p.m. CCTV showed him exiting the building, briefcase in hand, umbrella tucked under his arm. He did not drive. His car had been sold a year earlier to pay for medical bills. He usually took a bus home, occasionally a rickshaw if it was late. The CCTV cameras near the bus stop were temporarily non-functional. Malik sighed. He drove to the office building himself that evening, the rain having given way to thick, humid air. The security guard remembered Adil clearly. Good man, he said, always polite. That night he looked worried. Worried how? Malik asked. The guard frowned, searching his memory, like he was thinking too much. He was on the phone before he left, arguing, maybe not loud, but intense. Did you hear a name? The guard shook his head. Just his voice. Malik wrote it down anyway. Intensity mattered. Adil's office told a stranger story. On paper, the shipping firm was clean, profitable but unremarkable. Malik had seen dozens like it, but when he dug into Adil's department, accounts, invoices, customs fees, he found irregularities, small ones, payments that didn't quite line up, fees rounded in odd ways. Nothing dramatic, nothing that screamed fraud, but enough to suggest someone was smoothing edges. Malik requested Adil's computer. The IT manager stalled. By the time Malik got access, someone had wiped the hard drive. That was when the case stopped being a disappearance and started being a crime. Samina watched the inspector with exhausted eyes as he sat across from her at the small dining table. Hira was at school. The apartment felt hollow without her voice. Did Adil ever mention problems at work? Malik asked. Samina shook her head. He complained like everyone, long hours, pressure, but nothing serious. Did he have debts, gambling, affairs? Her expression hardened. No, Malik believed her. He had learned to read denial, and this wasn't it. This was certainty. He did start getting calls late at night, she added quietly. He would step into the other room. When I asked, he said it was work. Did he seem afraid? She hesitated. Not afraid, angry, frustrated, like he was trapped. Malik wrote that down too. The break came from a place Malik didn't expect. A junior accountant named Bilal, who asked for a private meeting after hours. They met at a roadside tea stall, the air thick with smoke and cardamom. Adil Bai found something, Bilal said, his hands shaking as he lifted his cup. Something big. What kind of something? Malik asked gently. Bilal swallowed. Fake shipments. Containers that existed on paper but never arrived. Fees paid, cleared, vanished. The money went somewhere. Who was involved? Bilal looked around nervously. I don't know names, but Adil Bai was trying to stop it. He said if it continued, someone would get caught. He wanted to report it. To the police. Bilal let out a humorless laugh. No, to the board, maybe higher. And then he disappeared. Malik said. Bilal nodded. The last time I saw him, he said he had arranged a meeting. Someone wanted to explain things. Did he say where? Bilal shook his head, only that it was after work, somewhere quiet. The riverfront was quiet at night. Too quiet. Malik stood under a flickering street lamp, looking out over the dark water. The old railway yard lay just beyond, rusted tracks sinking into mud, warehouses abandoned years ago. It was the kind of place people went to avoid being seen. He found the rickshaw driver on the third day, thanks to a bus conductor who remembered Adil missing his usual ride. The driver was reluctant, then fearful, then finally resigned. I dropped him near the railway yard, he said. He said someone was waiting. Did you see anyone else? Malik asked. The driver hesitated. A black car, tinted windows, engine running. Malik's jaw tightened. They found Adil's briefcase first. It was half, buried near the tracks, soaked and muddy. Inside were papers, copies of invoices, handwritten notes, a flash drive taped to the lining. Malik held it like a fragile thing. The flash drive changed everything. It contained spreadsheets, scanned documents, email chains. A map of corruption that ran from the shipping firm through customs officials and into a shell company registered overseas. Millions siphoned off, laundered clean. And at the center of the email chain was a name Malik recognized, Rashid Qureshi, a businessman with political connections and a reputation for generosity. Too generous. Adil's last email draft was unsent. I cannot be part of this anymore. I have evidence. If anything happens to me, it ended there. The body surfaced 3 days later, caught on debris near the bend in the river. Adil Khan had been beaten. His wrists showed signs of restraint. The cause of death was drowning, but Malik knew better than to call it an accident. The river was just where they had put him after everything else. Samina identified him in silence, her hand trembling as she touched his face. Malik stood back, feeling the familiar heavy anger settle into his bones. It was the kind that stayed. Arrests didn't come quickly. They never did when money and power were involved. Malik pushed anyway. He leaked parts of the evidence to an honest journalist. He forced warrants through reluctant judges. He followed money trails until his eyes ached. Rashid Qureshi denied everything with a practiced smile, his lawyers hovering like vultures. But the evidence was solid, too solid. Bilal testified. So did a customs officer who decided prison was worse than betrayal. The black car was traced. The driver broke after 12 hours. When Rashid Qureshi was finally led into court in handcuffs, cameras flashed. He looked smaller than Malik had imagined. The verdict came a year later, guilty. The sentence didn't bring relief. Malik knew it never did. Justice was a concept people clung to because the alternative was unbearable. Samina moved out of the apartment near the river. Hira grew older, quieter, then stronger. She asked questions her mother struggled to answer. "Why did Baba die?" she asked one night. Samini pulled her close. "Because he did the right thing." On the anniversary of Adil's disappearance, Malik stood near the old railway yard. The tracks were being removed now, replaced by concrete and plans for development. The city moved on, it always did, but Malik remembered the rain, the empty streets, the night a man who should have come home didn't. He thought of Adil's unsent email, of all the truths that ended mid-sentence. The rain began again, soft and insistent, and Malik turned up his collar and walked away, carrying the weight of a story that would never fully end, only echo quietly through the lives it had touched.